listeners. My name is Cliff Ratza. I'm the author to an ongoing series of novels, the Lightning Brain series and its sequel, the Keeper series. And in addition to being an author and a writing coach, I teach at universities and have a consulting business. If you would like to learn more about me, my books, or my writing coach activities, please contact Prime Solutions via the lightningbrainseries.com website. I try to make videos that I think authors and writers, as well as most people, might enjoy listening to. I want to cover material in a manner that you might not see on the news or in other YouTube or similar videos. I figure that if I can't find a different point of view, there's no reason for me to add something that you can find elsewhere. Well, the title of this video is Fables Throughout the Ages, relevant and updated for today. I imagine that just about all you listeners read fables when in grade school. Andersen and Grimm's fairy tales come to mind, as does the anonymous collection known as Mother Goose. And many stories in these collections are retellings that come from antiquity, such as the Greek legends and Bible stories, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, Confucius, Buddha, the Middle East legends of Gilgamesh or Indian gods, and stories from the Ramayana. They contribute as well, as does Islam, and Adam and Eve, and Jesus do too. Jesus, by the way, was a great parable storyteller in his own right. And there are African oral legends too. Here are some of the top African folk tales. The Man Who Never Lied, The Lion and the Jackal, The Tortoise with a Pretty Daughter, and The Woman with Two Skins. There are many others. Edith Hamilton's classic book, Mythology, Timeless Tales of Gods and Heroes, published in 1942, remains recommended reading for anyone wanting a literary introduction. But there are books of more recent vintage that can put a modern spin on interpreting the stories. You can find many if you Google for them. And why are fables and myths important? Because, as Hamilton's subtitle states, they are timeless tales that inculcate as well as inspire every generation. And every generation needs to have the tales retold in the language and context that fit its time. I have read articles explaining how many current novels and movies embed modern sociopolitical themes when retelling timeless stories. And here are some that you'll easily recognize. Heroes becoming less bloodthirsty and are now more compassionate, more empathetic. Their quest for equality and justice now extends to ecology and the environment. Championing rights for individuals and the power of diversity is now a source of strength, and so is championing gender or sex orientation. Men have dominated the pantheon of mythological gods and heroes throughout the ages. Here's a sampling from the distant past. We have Achilles and Hercules, China's Confucius, Indians Siddhartha. We have Moses, Muhammad, and the African hero Congus. And in our times we have Superman, Batman, the Lone Ranger, Indiana Jones, and so on and on. Women, too, have figured in. There's Helen of Troy and Cleopatra. and a Virgin Mary-like female appears in many diverse cultures. But seldom are they protagonists. They play a supporting role, sometimes helping and sometimes hindering the hero. So I thought you might like a summary of how the role of women has transitioned throughout the history of fables. I found several books and articles telling this story. And here's what some of the subject matter experts tell us. Females played a secondary role to the manly heroes. Though women created them, females are usually victims or tricksters. And females often cause the world's problems. For example, consider Pandora, who, opening a jar containing plagues of the world, unleashed them all. Or Eve taking forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. And their tempting sexuality leads even heroes astray. Consider Samson and Delilah. And the subject matter experts tell us that the bias against women played out in the real world. For example, women were considered property and had to obey their male owners. Their role remained firmly rooted in the home and taking care of everyone but themselves. They had no voice in government or politics, and they were demonized and burned at the stake when caught causing trouble, instigated by their meddlesome curiosity. Their sexuality served only to please men, not their own wishes. These biases continued even though the Renaissance and Enlightenment came into being. For example, even in the Renaissance and Enlightenment, females couldn't seek careers that would make them less dependent on marriage. Writing was the only art form open to women. Female painters and musicians didn't appear until late in the 19th century. Female authors started pushing for equality by telling stories from the female point of view. Some examples. Think Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, or Louisa May Alcott. And later on, icons like Simone de Beauvoir and Florence Nightingale motivated a core of independent-minded women to lead causes that bettered women's status. And as the 20th century catastrophes of world wars, economic booms and busts, and emerging environmental destruction, plus political upheavals, gripped the world, people began to trace the problems to testosterone-inflated male leaders. Scholars and political realists alike realized that the role of women should become equal to that of men. I'm sure you can find examples of women who have achieved leadership positions in business, technology, and politics. And now, because I'm an author, I thought I would focus on heroines coming to life in books and movies, starting in the 20th century and accelerating today. There are too many to describe in great detail, so my purpose will be to just mention the ones that should be familiar to you. And I think you can see the progress that heroic females have made in remakes of fables, which are often found in books and movies. Jo March in the movie dramatization of Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. Anne Shirley in Anne of Green Gables. Little Orphan Annie in comic books or on screen and stage. Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Atticus Finch's daughter, Scout, in To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird. Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote. And Diana Rigg in Avengers, or Lindsay Wagner in The Bionic Woman. And then there's Laura Dern playing paleobotanist, and Ariana Richards playing the adolescent computer geek in Jurassic Park. There's also the real Princess Di or Princess Leia in Star Wars. And moving into the 21st century and up to right now, how about Angela Jolene in Tomb Raiders, or in her Marvel Studios Thena superhero role? There's Lisbeth Salander in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or Jennifer Lawrence playing Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games. And in the Disney world, we have The Little Mermaid and Anna and Elsa in Frozen. And for current series, how about Maisie Williams playing Arya Stark in Game of Thrones, or Kristen Stewart in Snow White and the Huntsman, or Emma Watson playing Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. More and more TV series are featuring women of color heroines. Just consider these series: Queen Sugar, Insecure, or Girlfriends. And Hollywood News recently reported that the movie The Woman King topped a recent week's box office revenue list. It is a 2022 American historic epic about the Agoji, an all-female warrior unit that protected the West African kingdom of Dahomey during the 17th to 19th centuries. There are many more to choose from, but I will leave that to you. And before I end this video, I would like to point to a just released October 2022 Scientific American article titled "Viking Textiles Show Women Had Tremendous Power," and it's subtitled "Cloth from Viking and Medieval Archaeological Sites Shows that Women Literally Made the Money in the North Atlantic." The article goes on to say that until Hoyer Smith began her work, the real lives of Viking women were largely unknown. According to archaeologist Douglas Bolander of the University of Massachusetts, the basic outline of Viking society came from Icelandic sagas. Those book-length narrative accounts were set down more than 300 years after the events they describe. And the authors, who were men, as far as we know, were Christianized people writing about their pagan ancestors. Viking women have long been stereotyped in archaeology as performing primarily domestic tasks: child-rearing, cooking, weaving, and cloth making. Written accounts and archaeological evidence confirm that they were weavers. Yet for years at a time, during their husbands' absences for raids or trading expeditions, women ran the farms and engaged in trade. And Hoyer Smith's textile research shows that female ability with looms made more money than their axe-wielding husbands. Hoyer Smith remains committed to the pursuit of the tales only cloth can tell. As a once dubious Nordic researcher observes, after her publications, nobody's going to look at textiles the same way again. And I hope I have piqued your curiosity. So if so, you can delve into more details. And I thank you for watching. Bye-bye until next time.